Hello, everybody. I'm Will,
And I'm Kristen.
and this is So I'm Watching Yellowjackets, Season 2, Episode 9.
Storytelling.
We have seemingly tapped out both Natalie and Kevin.
Yeah, okay.
And I feel strange about that.
I feel, you mentioned it out there when we talked about it, that we have not paid the proper due to how hot Kevin Tan is. And that's accurate.
I don't know.
Yeah.
From somewhere, I just the way, I guess because Elijah Wood's kind of short.
Yeah.
So he was a little bit towering over Elijah Wood. I love that he was singing Send in the Clowns
as the cops
showed up.
A+.
Truly, this
Absolutely
was directed by Karen Kasuma, and you could tell.
She did the pilot and this one.
And Jennifer's Body. Yeah. There were moments in this that I just like, the Javi stuff upset me so much more than I thought it was going to.
Pretty bad, yeah.
And a lot of that was directorial choices. Mm-hmm. But Kevin was there, and I was like, man, I mean, we've mentioned it, but he was just sort of like a pest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was getting in the way of our, like, actresses.
So, okay, here's the thing for me, is that I understand why Walter did it. And I honestly think that was kind of just like the phenobarbital roulette that they were going to be playing with Lottie, where it's like, whichever cop came into the kitchen is the one that Walter was going to poison. And I think if he had known the difference between the two of them, he might have focused on the other guy. But it works out maybe better because
I think it's brilliant that it's not one of our girls, that an outside force is what.
Oh, 100%. And so the thing is that like Matt is easier to turn dirty. So killing Kevin is smart.
It's just like,
but he's so hot and he's not a dirtbag.
Well, I know he was a good guy.
He was a good guy and a good cop.
This show has such a deliberate, wicked sense of humor.
Yeah.
That it largely, at least for me, and I would assume most of the people really into this, the girls and the gays watching this, it's all fun and games.
Oh, yeah.
Until the hot cop is dead. And then it's like,
Come on. Until the sincerely hot cop is dead, because the other cop is also hot.
Hot in a different way.
But he's like skeezy hot.
It just does kind of suck because Kevin was a good guy.
Yeah.
It's an interesting trope, which is the cop that knows something is up but can't quite figure out what.
And he can't make all the pieces.
And a lot of times that's indirect conflict with our heroes' motives and what we want. And so it's like we're largely rooting for these girls to get away with stuff. Although we did get a comment that made me laugh out loud. Apparently there are some people watching this that are like, nope, gotta go. Misty in jail. No. Lottie in jail.
You're watching
Shauna,
the show wrong.
Jail.
You're watching the show wrong.
But it does kind of suck that he seemingly was a good person, good at his job, and died, interestingly, second season finale with a gentle death.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Also, 2.
Yeah. But that was so striking to me, the season 1 finale, that because it's such a violent, it's such a brutal show, that when characters have a gentle death, I think it's interesting. Yeah. I think it's just noteworthy. Because I'm not entirely sure what I
deserved it.
A gentle death?
Sure. He didn't deserve to go out.
He doesn't know he's dead, basically.
He didn't deserve to go out getting hacked to pieces by Van and Lottie, so.
I'm not entirely sure what I think the show's thesis statement is. Okay. Like, what its overall, because that's where we are at media, and, I mean, not everything has to follow certain rules.
Well, I mean, we're not even done.
So, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I get that, but I'm sort of like, there's, like, a respect for nature, and, like, I find the wildness that is just under the surface of civilization very fascinating, and that's a large portion of what the show's dealing with, but I was in denial, too, because I mean, I know that they said phenobarbital or something. What is, it's just poison?
It's a barbiturate. It's supposed to just be like a tranquilizer, but if you overdose on
that's what I thought. I thought, well, he's probably just out. And, like, it was to the point where Walter came up and shot him 3 times with Matt's gun that I was like, oh, he's dead.
He was already dead.
He's dead. Like, that's just, and it's
because
just
that's why when Lottie made the tea and it literally was one of them was going to die if they all drank the tea. So
yeah, I don't know. It's a little surprising because the first 2 seasons of the show were about like a thing, and seemingly season 3 is going to be different. Like, we're
maybe,
not,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think what I like about it is like the slow, because it's still a pretty slow decline because they're still feeling very emotional in the past. They're still feeling very emotional about eating people. Like, no one's like stoked that they're eating Javi. You know what I mean?
But I think that no. That's weird too. It's the kind of thing where I am enjoying what we're doing, and I've enjoyed this season, and I enjoyed this episode. But I'm sort of at a place where I'm like, I'm gonna need to see where we go for me to fully decide if I like what we're doing.
Sure.
Because I think that was such a weird storytelling choice to keep Javi alive for this end.
Well, okay, yes, I still agree with that. However, based on the end of this episode, I think Natalie is going to take them as far as they got with Javi, and they are going to find the cave because someone's going to have to confront Coach Ben about burning down the cabin.
Dude.
And then they're going to eat him. I'm almost certain.
Yeah, well, I said while we were watching it, I was like, that cabin is more valuable than getting rid of these girls is necessary.
Yeah, well, because that's the other thing too, is like he basically stumbles back to camp and he sees Shauna like field dressing Javi so that they can eat him. And he like,
that's where the direction got me, when
Yeah.
her hand was like over his like chest,
Yeah.
his body, and you're just looking at, and I think the fact that he's younger hits more, because even though we're aware that they're teenage girls, we've acclimated to them. Where
and he looks much younger than
and
them,
it was just shocking. And that is, I mean, it's the Lord of the Flies of it all, but that is interesting, where it's like, it reminds me of the episodes of South Park where the girls have their meetings.
Oh, yeah.
And they have this like whole hierarchy. And I just love that notion with young people, but with groups of young girls, that we fall into like this like medieval caste system very quickly.
We really do. So, okay, I want to get to that.
There's so many things.
But I want to finish the Coach Ben thing, because he sees Shauna preparing Javi and he sort of freaks out and starts going away and runs into Natalie. And Natalie is like, I'm worse than them because I let Javi take my place or whatever. And so he immediately books it back to the cave. But then he can't like make a fire by himself, and there's no food and stuff. So he like,
he makes the fire.
Although I do wonder if it wasn't so much that as it was like him just thinking, I need to get rid of these. Like, this is ridiculous. But I don't know. It seems absolutely crazy. Or is it the forest? Did the forest burn down the cabin because it wants them to go completely feral?
We didn't see. So we saw him come up and he took the hatchet and like hit it. And we saw him with rope and matches. So it implied he did it.
Yeah.
We didn't witness him doing it. And the forest has acted on its own a few times.
Yeah, but we've seen it. We've like swooped through the forest. We swooped out of the forest at the end. I don't know. Regardless, I think Coach Ben is in for a rude awakening in season 3.
And the Natalie stuff, which we're culminating to her story and many things, but I do find it interesting how, because I already mentioned, I'm not sure like what the show's thesis statement is, and obviously there's broad life and death that you can't, it's kind of Final Destination, like you can't beat death. And so I think it's interesting that Natalie last week was the one that they selected to sacrifice, and Travis interfered with that, and thus Javi was taken from him. And so we're getting to a place where when they fight it, whatever it is, they get punished. And when they lead into it, they get rewarded.
And that's like maybe why Natalie's life has been so difficult. And like, okay. And
because
maybe
she hasn't paid her debt yet until now.
Yeah, and then maybe either like messed up Lottie, or Travis actually did kill himself because he was like,
Lottie. Oh, I'm so
needed to.
I'm so glad that she is complex and a rich character, because I fell in love with her immediately. And a lot of people were like, yeah, I got my eye on you. And it's a matter of both. She's gone.
I mean, she
gone,
is bonkers.
but they kind of did it to her.
100%. But like present day Lottie,
she's gone full Norma Desmond.
Way.
She is ready for her close-up, Mr. DeVille. And because we got that scene where Callie shot her, and I'm like, we're at a borderline, you fools. This only makes me stronger, please.
Don't even.
Because they're just like this clatter of Maenads running around the wilderness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it is insane. Mm-hmm. And I think I kind of love how we, the audience, get so pulled into it to varying degrees, because Shauna had, a foot and a half out the door this whole episode.
Well, okay, that's what's so fascinating to me too, is like all of them were like, we are going to conspire and we'll pretend we're doing this, and then we're going to get Lottie recommitted because she obviously needs some work. And then it was Van, and
Van, because you said you were like, I didn't realize, like, I don't remember, like, she's like an apostle.
She's properly in. And that's the other thing too, is like, if we find out in season 3 that Lottie has been paying the upkeep on Van's video store, I would not be surprised. Like, not even a little bit.
Well, because Rachel predicted, and we won't know until well after the whatever is going on with all the strikes and stuff. But Rachel is predicting now that Van's cancer is going to be gone.
Yep.
Now that they participated in the ritual.
And
someone died.
Someone died, yeah.
Which they did sort of reveal that Natalie was sort of the de facto queen.
So does that mean she's the deer queen? Because, okay, I've seen tons of pictures where people are like, Lottie can't be the deer queen. You can see her sitting right next to her. And I never really noticed that until like the last couple of weeks.
Well, and I know that we specifically, it's not Misty, because she takes the thing off in like the first episode.
Yep.
So basically we have, I'm getting the Netflix's The Society vibes, because it's like Natalie is the queen, Lottie is the priestess, and Van is like the general. Yeah. And it is interesting. And I do think that given their age, the time period, the late 90s, mid 90s, and all that, I think that they would sort of fall into this sort of, because I think to them the lines between the fantasy and the reality are invisible.
Well, they also have been for months now in like a state of trauma and pure survival mode. Several of them have already died. Shauna almost died. Shauna had a baby that died. Like there's a lot going on. I can understand how all of this stuff blurs together.
That I really felt from Karen's direction and Sophie's performance when Shauna was doing Javi, because I was like, she just had a baby boy that died, and now here she is dismembering another baby boy.
Yeah.
Like I felt it. Like,
well, she like couldn't look at him to do the first cut. She like pulled her like hair or hat thing down over her face, and I thought that was very good.
Also, good use of
Karen Kusama should do
more work,
more stuff.
Good use of zombie. The cranberries, right? Yeah, cranberry zombie. Because that's a gripe of ours. Is a lot of people don't know what that song's about. And at the very least, it was utilized here. Yes, there was a dead person, but it was a dead child, and that. Yeah,
but like that it is about dead people.
Well, sure, but it's not like it's what it's not about is zombies.
Yeah, it's not about zombies, like literal zombies. I thought it was really interesting too how the adult women, when they were pulling the cards, they did. I don't know how serious all of them were, but they all put on the masks and they all started chasing Shauna. I don't know. It's really, and Shauna seriously was like, oh, I thought we were also messing around. Like, what the hell?
That's another thing.
I thought we were also humoring Lottie. You guys are serious?
That's another thing. We on occasion we do live streams, and our like friends and fans come and talk, and one of the questions we've gotten asked is examples of like favorite tropes of ours and stuff, and I can never come up with it in the moment.
Yeah.
But here's an example that I realized one of my favorite tropes is the point of no return.
Sure.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
To play that mind game where it's like, at what point do we enter the point of no return? Because a lot of times you're well into it before you realize.
For sure.
And for Shauna, she's just sort of like, we're not really doing this. And then she's like, I'm just going to walk away. And then they start following her. And it's like, you've already passed that threshold, sweetheart.
It's really super interesting. And then I did also, there was the scene with Callie and the detective, Matt. I keep forgetting his name.
Matt Syracuse.
He just comes like lurking out of the woods, and she's got the gun because she came there with Jeff and he has it in the glove compartment, and he was being so suspicious about where the gun might be.
I've been worried about Jeff the whole time, but based on what we've seen and even just Callie's role in this episode, I don't think Jeff is capable of keeping up with I think he's an innocent, and I don't think this is going to.
This is not going to end well for Jeff. One way or another, it's not going to end well for Jeff.
I'm worried.
And so.
And we already have dismissed Kevin Tan, who was similar. I mean, Jeff is way more sympathetic or likable.
Also, Jeff is trying to help Shauna get out of this mess, and so he
tried to turn himself in.
He did, yeah. And okay, because I want to get to Walter in a minute. But I did love that Callie was actually scared of him, but also not backing down, and she took the safety off the gun and everything. She was ready to use that if he didn't get called away.
And I do even though, we're obviously on Callie and her mom's side, I do like that he knows. It's like I said when I was they're not afraid enough of Shauna.
Oh, yeah.
I like that I don't know I would go as far as to say he's afraid of Callie, but he did not underestimate her.
He didn't underestimate her.
Because he was like, I need to see your hands.
But I think he is still underestimating Shauna, who I don't know what role I would give her. And given the diary entry we see her writing at the end before the cabin burns down, she's annoyed at having been passed over for being the leader. And she was writing that she thought it was always Jackie that made her feel invisible, but now she's not so sure.
I didn't catch that.
Really interesting work. I really think I would love to know what comes
Well, because Shauna, it's funny. I don't know that we've ever said it in these words.
Such an important role.
Well, Shauna is Melanie Lynskey is our leading lady.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I don't think we've said it in these words, but Shauna is sort of the perpetual friend.
Yeah.
She is the role of the friend, and Jackie is the
lead.
The lead.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting having a leading lady. It's like having Judy Greer as a leading lady.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I like that notion that she's our leading lady, but she's not the show's leading. She's not the leading lady in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's curious.
It's really interesting. And so, okay. So Walter shows up. Amazing. I just love Elijah Wood to the bottom of my heart and back. And
he's so good.
Literally, someone said in our comments last week that they were like, "Oh no, Walter's going to come up and clean it up for Misty."
I figured.
And I wanted that so much more than him actually turning the cops against them. But
he's kindred. Him and I think him and Misty, and which I mean, if we're actually if we're declaring people roles, I'm sitting firmly at Misty as the villain. Misty is the big bad. Was that foregone?
Well, she's the one that killed the black box. So that starts there. And then she started forcing Lottie into this in this episode because they were they came back and she was like, hey, Javi's dead, so we're going to eat him. And Lottie was like, what? I didn't want that. And Misty was like, well, it happened and you started this. And so don't make us feel bad about it. Amazing. Unreal amazing. And we talk a lot about how great Christina Ricci is, and I've said it before, but Samantha Hanratty as young Misty is so incredible. Just the eyes, the spooky huge blue eye. I mean, it's
the squirreliness.
Brown eyes. She has blue eyes in real life, but brown eyes. I mean, it's bonkers. She's so fantastic and so good. So yeah, Walter arrives and he immediately gets the lay of the land. He's so comfy in this cult immediately. He and the purple jacket. You guys liked my reaction to that last week. He's got his purple clothes. He's got head to toe purple clothes. He's in it to win it, and he kills Kevin Tan with phenobarbital hot cocoa. And
without a second thought.
No, yeah, just
like
here
dust
you
it
go.
off his hands, proud of his work, put it on display.
Yeah. Incredible. And then he ropes Jeff into it and he calls him Jeffrey. And that's the thing too, is like if we do end up losing Jeff, I'm gonna really miss Warren Cole and his like reaction deliveries, because it's like the book club thing, and then there was one a couple of weeks ago, and this one, and I'm just everything about what he brings to the table. But he gets him roped into it, and then he ends up framing or saying he could frame Matt for this, but he's willing to frame Kevin if Matt will keep his mouth shut about the whole thing, which is why
we know one thing about Matt. He'll play ball.
He'll go dirty. So that's why I was like, he couldn't have turned Kevin. So maybe he did purposefully pick the right one. But and that's also why he shot Kevin with Matt's gun so that he could be like, I uncovered this dirty plot and like, here you go. So that was super interesting. And then we actually don't really see him again until the like very end when he finds Misty, and he's so happy and proud to tell her that he took care of the Kevin Tan situation or the Adam Martin situation. And then she's like, oh,
she killed her best friend.
She killed her best friend.
That was kind of a one-way street.
Well, if Lisa had minded her own business.
I don't know how I feel. That's where I'm at. I enjoyed all this.
Yeah.
But I am in a little bit of not an impasse, but I'm sort of like, I'm honestly going to need to see where we go before I know
100%,
how much I like it. Because it's like
in 2025.
Because, I don't know. I just, because I don't know. Obviously, we like Lisa. We were rooting for Lisa. She and Natalie had a connection that I genuinely thought was romantic. I think it could have gone that way under different circumstances.
Well, and Natalie was very seriously like, I need you to leave. Like, don't be here tonight.
I think it's that. I don't think I was reading
going to happen,
too much into it. But it is also sort of like, God damn it. I mean, granted, if Lisa hadn't have interfered, but I don't know. I feel very... very interestingly about it. Yeah. I loved Simone Kessel's reaction to seeing Callie. She was like, they're going mythical.
They are.
They're going, like, she was sort of...
She says she has so much power.
That was the priestess. The priestess was looking at this
Callie,
child as if it were part of this grand scheme. And that's what I'm sort of like, is this the divine feminine? Is that what we're doing? Like, because it's there. That stuff is in this.
It's in the DNA of it for sure. I don't know. I am also
and Callie seems
very interested.
Because there was also a shot of Shauna kind of looking at Callie, and she's enjoying this too much.
A little too much. Yeah. It's interesting.
That is another thing I find interesting, is that people in the real world and in the modern real world that weren't made for it.
Yeah.
Like, because even like it's Sin City of all things. I love that line about Marv where they're like, in the olden day, in the gladiator days, they would have thrown girls at. Like, he would have been a hero. Like, and maybe because I'm sort of like, is Callie out of time and place? Like, would she have survived?
Lottie is out of place.
Yeah.
Lottie is like an oracle at Delphi. Lottie is way out of place. But I also think it's interesting with Callie, especially with the look that Shauna gives her at the end, where after the conversation that Shauna had with Lottie about the baby goat and how she also like never felt connected to Callie because she lost a baby and she was always worried that
she just kept her at a distance.
She would just lose Callie, to then see so much of herself that she has tried to suppress ever since they got out of the wilderness, like kind of blossom in Callie in this moment of a tragedy, is, I think, scary for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm very interested. Van is more terrifying than ever.
I mentioned while we were watching that Crystal, they've sort of just glossed past that, which I feel like the fact that
I said it a couple weeks ago, but I was like, if we're truth telling, I did not like Crystal. I don't care at all. Then I feel like the rest of them.
Well, sure, but the fact that we revisited the spot where she died and her body was gone, that has to mean something. That has to... okay, I don't know how I would have actually felt about it, but for half of a second when the barn was burning down, I thought it was... The cabin, I thought it was revealing something.
Oh.
I thought that there was, like, going to be some weird understructure.
Underneath. Interesting.
And it just didn't happen, and I was sort of like, oh. And you're right, like, we pulled out, and it, like, showed the wilderness, but there was part of me that was waiting for something.
Yeah, I get that.
And
they also framed Ben within the cabin in a very interesting way. There was like a ton of open space to the side of him, and I kept waiting for something to be there also.
How did you feel about the plane? Do you feel any strong way?
I kind of vibed with it. It's fine. I
agree with Will. That is where it's starting to get a little lost, but as in the TV show.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it, especially because like that was such a pivotal moment for all of these girls and Natalie especially, because like if we're going off the vibe of basically she has been cheating death this whole time and that all started with the plane crash, then it would make sense that she would kind of in her brain synapses would like put her back there as she was dying of a phenobarbital overdose delivered by her best friend Misty by accident. Yeah, I don't know. I did kind of love I don't know, I kind of loved it. And that like she saw her younger self and her younger self was like, this is always where we were gonna end up. And then like
I wanted Jackie and Laura to be in there too, but they can overplay that hand.
What was interesting is that Lottie was there.
Teen Lottie.
Which is bizarre. I find that very odd that she saw teen Lottie at the end. Also, everybody pledged allegiance to her in the cabin, young Natalie.
Like pledged fealty though.
Yeah.
Like I'm not joking. Like I'm bringing up fantasy and medieval on purpose.
Yeah.
Kind of. We're going to like
it's very cool.
Very romanticized. Which again I think speaks to the teenage girl aspect of it all. I think you would sort of fall back on these tropes.
So they're taking Lottie away. And Callie did shoot her in the arm. She was like, get away from my mom.
I'm going to be mad if we are just tapping Lottie out.
I can't imagine.
She does. She is one of those, like, it's the thing I say sometimes, but she does need to be put in a room.
Yeah.
Like, put her in a room.
I want to keep her. But yeah, boy. Yeah, really good. Also, Mari seems to have fallen by the wayside a little. She wasn't even cooking. She didn't even cook Javi.
That fucking, the heart, that was so, I literally, when they put the heart in the heart itself, I was like, okay, it's dramatic, but it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But when they put it in the skillet, I was like, it came from down here. I was just like, oh.
It's because of like what your heart is made of that it like bounced kind of like that. Organs do that because they're different than like skin and
But
flesh.
it was also like, it like purged like the blood that was still in there. Ugh.
Because it contracted. Yeah.
It was so gross. But I made a joke when they were trying to get out of the fire. I was like, somebody pick up Mari and
just
throw her through the window.
Well, also, they are gunning to kill Van in a fire. Like, how many times are we gonna kill Van in a fire? Unreal.
Oh.
I'm sure if I kept talking.
Oh, I know there's more talking points. I think that's largely all of our conversations have a momentum, and I can feel us winding down. But
so good.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the ride.
Yeah.
But I am, as opposed to last season, I am perplexed as to where we're going, as to what story we are telling.
I mean, deeper in the hole, for sure. Yeah. Because they still have to get. I mean, there's still minimum 4 months left of this winter before they even get to next winter.
Well, not to mention that Ty's gonna go home to what? Is Simone still in the hospital? Where is that dreary child?
Also, a couple of people were like, she hasn't been sworn in as a senator yet. And I'm like, okay,
sure,
fine. That's fine.
That's cute and all.
She's still been missing.
Yeah, she's been elected.
She should be in the public eye right now, and she's not.
Someone should know where she is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm still curious. I don't really have anything specifically that, like, I don't have any theories, but I'm still curious if there's anyone else.
I think there has to be, because
I feel like at least one more.
Someone
Melissa.
Else. Well, oh, you mean in the present day? Oh, okay, I thought you meant like in the forest, because someone brought up that Javi did say she told me something when he got back to them. Like she said something, and there's.
But then I thought somebody said it was because Natalie told him to run.
Oh, maybe, or she told me to stay hidden, something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, when we
2 years
return.
Yeah.
No return, no return. All right. Well, we had a great time.
Yep.
And hopefully you did too. And hopefully we see you back, hopefully, sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/soimwatching this show, and we have a Cashapp and a Venmo if you want to donate and help keep the lights on, help support the channel. Yeah, just be on the lookout for whatever we cover next.
Bye.